Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberly at Singing for Your Soul, and I'm a singer and holistic vocal empowerment coach. And I've brought a client on today to talk about her experience with voice work. We're going to introduce her in just a moment, but I'm going to lay some groundwork before we jump in with Maryn. So I've been doing work for a lot of years that centers around finding and freeing our inner and our outer voices and the healing that comes from that. So it's not just about sounding good or sounding better. There's a lot more that goes into what conscious vocal work can bring. And this is a pretty essential topic right now. So, given recent world events, I've had some pretty deep and painful, but also hopeful conversations with clients. And in particular, the theme has been the importance of finding a healthier way forward. And people are needing to share their stories, particularly people of culture. Maryn just shared that that's a more appropriate word to use. So people of culture, and particularly Black Americans right now. And we're also, many of us, needing to listen to other people's stories. So particularly people like me, white Americans, are needing to listen so we understand better something that we have not experienced. And there are also many difficult emotions to process around COVID-19 and racism, systemic racism. There's a lot up collectively, right? So this is about personal and collective healing and awakening. That's really what's going on. And we're all going to be having strong emotions. And the question is, how do we own how we're really feeling and work with what is really trauma in the body? And it's in our own cells from experience in our own lifetimes, but it's also from ancestral, passing on through the ancestral lineage. And that gets into epigenetics and conversations about how those cellular memories are in the DNA. And that is part of what we can do, is to clear that ancestral lineage. So there's some really big stuff that we're doing right now. And, how do we heal and stop these cycles of violence and fear that have been perpetuated for so long? How do we get out of that loop? So one of the key ways is by allowing our bodies to be the vessels for these emotions, to let them up and through so they're not trapped inside of us anymore. And this is uncomfortable right now, because right now collectively this is what we're doing, that's rearing its ugly head, like super ugly head. And the thing is, though, that if we don't allow that process, then it stays trapped and it continues to unconsciously run the show. And as we're finding, that's not working anymore. We're not going to stand for that. So we want to recognize and process these traumas so they can resolve and heal, and we can come up with better ways to move forward, right? Like loving everybody. Okay, so there are, thankfully, practices, specific practices using voice and breath and energy that can help us to do this. And I happen to have a background where I had to do that for my own self because of sexual abuse and trauma that I experienced in my life, some really long and difficult things that happened. And so that started me on this path. And so today's conversation is with Maryn Masumiya. And in our last session together, she was talking so beautifully and eloquently about how the vocal practices and energy work and some of the things we've been doing have helped her move more gracefully through this time. And so I wanted to bring her on to share more about that with you. Maryn, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm just nodding as you're talking because I agree with everything. So thanks for having
Well,
me.
we had some pretty deep conversations about all of that, and I know that we're really on the same page with, what's up, and doing our part to learn how to move forward more wholesomely.
Yeah.
So my first question for you is, what is your relationship with your voice? What has it been in the past, and what brought you to this point where we're talking today?
Yeah, I mean, I almost think it was meant to be that we started our vocal work when the world is, in such a state of chaos and change and transformation. I think as an Asian American and as a woman, I've sort of been socially conditioned to stay quiet and keep the peace and not be too loud and not ruffle any feathers. So I've definitely taken that to heart. And I feel that I've always had a strong voice and I've always had big feelings. I'm a very sensitive person and have been from when I was very young. So I think writing was a safer route for me, but in terms of using my voice, I was definitely like a closet singer, just singing in my car and at karaoke, with my friends. But I think right now I'm feeling this imperative that I really need to speak out and that I have something to say. And it's kind of all been boiling and like, just sitting in there. And so it's just, I need to express it. And so our work together has really helped me to feel more liberated and comfortable in doing that.
Hmm. So there's been this history of repression as a woman, as an Asian uh,
Mm-hmm.
woman in the United States, and so it's culturally, probably in many different ways, and you've been feeling it bubble up for a while now, and a
I
real
almost feel that I sort of reached a tipping point within my own body in a way. And then it feels kind of like the world also has reached some sort of tipping point. So it's just funny how that's aligned now. And I think that's sort of activated me in a way.
uh-huh. And probably, and many people are feeling that activation, I think, right now, which is why this is such a timely conversation. um,
Totally. Yeah. And I think
and
it's one of those times, right, with the pandemic that we're all just sitting there witness to this and we can't really distract ourselves or look away. So it's just, yeah, it's definitely a compelling time to speak up.
yeah, and we're having to sit with it and deal with
In our homes while social distancing.
just such extraordinary times we're in. So, can you say a little bit about what that felt like in your body? Like, what has been wanting to move through?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you've been a great teacher because you've sort of allowed me to detach from the self-consciousness of like, oh, I don't want to sound bad and I need to sound perfect and I have to be so on pitch. Because like you taught me, our bodies and actually like our voice through the vagus nerve that channels all of our emotions. So whatever is in here sort of needs clearing, and it might not always sound like an angel singing in a church. It might sometimes sound like anger or sadness and that type of thing. So I think feeling more liberated in that way. And then you've also given me so many tools in terms of strengthening my voice and caring for my voice, that helps. And I've sort of started to see it as a practice that, using your voice is actually a muscle and you just have to keep doing it and practicing it and let it rest. And so I think thinking of it in that way has helped me sort of feel empowered in using my voice.
That makes me so happy to hear that. And it's true. All of those things really are true. And there's something that aren't commonly understood in our society. And have you had the sense that, wow, this is like a living, breathing thing inside of me that is now literally being given voice?
Definitely. And it's so connected to your breath too, right?
Mhm.
So I've done yoga and I've done meditation and it all works together. And I think a lot of times we're so in our heads and we like are chained to our screens and that type of thing, which I'm guilty of also, but it's just like embodying your full self and learning how to, like, one thing you taught me is breathing into my back because our lungs actually go all the way around. And so just sort of inhabiting my body and giving it the time and space it needs and kind of listening. I think as women, we do have this intuition that is there and we don't always pay attention to it. So for me, getting quiet and doing these practices of honoring my body and kind of also paying attention to what my voice sounds like, and do I sound tired, do I sound angry, and just honoring that and trying not to judge it and not caring so much about what other people are going to think. Just seeing it as more of a healthy expression, just like breath. Voice comes from breath. So we should be able to just express it freely.
See, this is why we're talking about this today, because you just say it all so well. Uh, so the voice, you just mentioned something really, one of my favorite things to help people recognize is that the voice is really like a barometer. It helps us understand where we are emotionally. And most of us are afraid of the sound of our voice, like if it sounds upset or if it cracks when we're nervous or if we're out of tune when we're singing. But really, all that that's doing is showing us where we are, right?
Mhm.
And giving us feedback about our emotional state and well being, about the situation that we're in. And when we learn to befriend that and listen to it, things shift really powerfully. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's like that whole experience of when you record your voicemail. Like, I don't think I've recorded my voicemail for 10 years because you're just like, who is that? Is that how I really sound? But part of it is just making friends with your voice, like you're saying, and just recognizing this is a part of me and like an instrument that I can use to express myself in the world.
Yeah.
And just kind of trying to get out of that place of judgment and just being present with whatever's going on for you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's beautiful. And using the sound of our voice as like a meditative self-connection tool so that we're instead of being in this judgment place, we're in this awareness place where we're just going, oh, information, instead of, oh, that sounded terrible, right? And from there, it's a much more powerful place to shift. And that's how really profound healing begins when we shift that conversation around our voices, but also around our life experience, right? So there's a lot in there that we don't have time to go into. But I want to ask, how do you think that this kind of vocal work can help others who are, moving through this time with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the time we're all kind of in our own comfort state, which sometimes that comfort state is like just being stressed out and burnt out and just going to your job and trying to get, feed yourself and make it to the gym once in a while. But I think now we're all sort of can't deny the feelings that we're having and what we're witnessing, all these social injustices out in the world right now. Um, and so I think a lot of us, and on top of that, of course, the pandemic, right? So I think our bodies have been responding to that and feeling like we're not safe within ourselves. And I think this is the perfect time to really tune in and to sit with our emotions and process those emotions. Because not only are we trying to process our reaction to what's going on right now in current events, but it's also probably triggering all those things and all that trauma we've had throughout our life that we haven't really sat down with, and honored. And so it's a lot. So I feel like these type of practices are healing, and it's the way that you can really help others and kind of make an impact right now is just starting with yourself and kind of being that example.
Mhm. Yeah, going within and recognizing that we are all connected, we are all one. And so as we do our inner healing, we're assisting the collective.
Yeah, and I feel like right now there's just so much trauma going on that
Mhm.
you have to sort of get yourself right in order to enter the conversation. Otherwise, people are just going to be triggering each other's trauma and it's just going to get, it's not really going to be very productive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, given that, is there one specific exercise that you can think of that we could briefly touch on that has felt particularly helpful to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I joked with you that, oh, I came for vocal lessons, but really you're teaching me all these like stress relieving skills. And that's really what I've been using them for. I would say the one that I've been using the most lately is the power breaths. So it's sort of like the equivalent of if you feel anxiety in your body that, some people breathe into a paper bag, but this is something you can do on your own. So you basically just make a fist and you kind of keep a little hole in there. And then when you're breathing, you kind of use your chest and you breathe up into all your
The
lungs and your
back.
back. Yeah. So we're basically gonna do that 10 times. And then on the 10th, you just hold your breath and then you release it slowly. And so I do this all the time whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed by watching too much news. So I'll just demonstrate really quickly, but it's just like, and it's so good. I usually do it once or twice, and then you're just immediately like, oh, you have that Zen feeling of, okay, I'm okay. And I think in times like these, it's just that reminder that I am safe in my own body and I'm paying attention and I'm taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And our point of power is this moment, which is where we are usually safe in this moment, right? Um, and that is activating the vagus nerve. Those breaths, the extended exhale, particularly activates and tones the vagus nerve, which helps take us out of that fight or flight and helps us to actually feel better in the body. That was a beautiful demonstration.
Thanks. I've been practicing.
I can tell. And everybody's welcome to try that. You know, that's a really potent exercise that I really invite you to work with. Because it can really help shift us physiologically. We need to understand that this is physiological, this stuff that's going on in our bodies. And if we can shift, it's better. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. We need to feel the feelings, but we also don't want to get stuck in that place. We want to shift into an integrated, wholesome place.
Yeah, I think what's been helpful for me is just kind of seeing the feelings as waves, and you want to like ride it out and honor it and acknowledge it, but then you also need to like kind of come down and make that space for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. That's a best analogy ever. Yeah. Ride the waves.
Hmm.
Wow, Maryn, thank you so much. We're trying to keep this brief so people have a lot going on. So thank you for joining us. I'm really grateful to you for taking your time and sharing your experience. And you have a community that you're starting on YouTube and Instagram, some different places. Can you tell us about Grow Lady Grow?
Yes. So I'm really creating this as a safe space, particularly for women and young girls, to sort of just support each other on our journeys as we're trying to learn, and all educate ourselves and kind of grow more into our own purpose and kind of navigate these personal changes and then also these external changes that we're facing. So it's just a place where I kind of share what I'm learning, and I want it to become a community where we can all do that.
Thank you. That's amazing. And you're such a great person to be leading that kind of community. I know that from our time together.
Oh, thank
So
you.
I will link to your YouTube channel and the Instagram below this video so people can check out Grow Lady Grow. Um, is there anything else you want to add before we sign
Just the
out?
easiest place to find it is on Instagram. It's just grow.lady.grow. And then there's a link in the description to the YouTube channel.
Oh,
So please
perfect.
join. It's just starting out, and I'm like an old millennial. So don't.
That's
So
amazing.
I'm just learning. Yeah. But please join.
Awesome. Baron, thank you. And I wanted to share some other resources through Singing for Your Soul. I have a free hour-long voice class. Don't let that intimidate you. It's broken into 20-minute segments, and you can go to singingforyoursoul.com and join the emailing list, and you'll get access to that class. Do you want to say anything about that class? I know you have watched it and used it.
I love it, and I've gone through it. So I feel like if you have a meditation or yoga practice, or you just need some time to de-stress, I would just do those videos. And you don't have to do them all at one time, but there's a lot of like body movement and stretching and that type of thing. So it's really enjoyable. It's not like a scary where you're singing scales or anything like that. So I
Yeah.
recommend it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I made it to address a variety of different topics because I work with so many different kinds of people. So it was like, let's just bring little pieces of very helpful stuff in. So that's available. I made it before COVID and all of this all of the recent events happened, but hopefully it can help you in your processing of them. And I do have some different series you can check out on Facebook. I've done some Facebook Live videos. I started doing them again back in November, and so I've done a variety of different ones. I have a series called Happy, Healthy, Harmonized that I started at the beginning of the quarantine, and that was specifically practices to help as we navigated that territory. And I'll be starting one. I don't know what it's called yet, but it will be to help us process what's going on in our bodies due to this awakening of systemic racism awareness. And both of those series, so that one's upcoming, it'll be 10 to 15 minute quick little practices that we can do to make a significant shift. And some of the most potent stuff that I've discovered around trauma and healing trauma. And those will both, if you want to donate to those, you can do so. I will share information on how to do that. The first one, the Happy, Healthy, Harmonized, goes to support artists who have been financially affected by the quarantine and all that's happened with COVID. And then the other series will go to help the Loveland Foundation, which is, do you want to talk more about the Loveland Foundation? Actually, I found out about them through Maryn. So
Yeah, so I've actually been following this woman, Rachel Cargill, and she's just really a thought leader in terms of like Black women empowerment and just women empowerment in general. And she's doing so much work educating people. And so this foundation supports Black women and Black girls in their mental health and actually pays directly for therapy sessions for them, which I need a lot of therapy right now. So I can't even imagine. I know it's a huge need and gap, and the access isn't always there. So definitely a good cause.
yes, and that I've been researching and looking for causes I could jump on board with, and this was like, yes, this is what I want to be able to support. And so, just to give you an idea, if you donate $20, that covers a portion of a therapy session. So you're basically giving somebody access to part of a therapy session. And if enough people donate, then that will help us to do that. $100 pays for a whole therapy session, and $50 would pay for half of one. So that just gives you a range of what you would be donating towards if you find that these videos are helpful and you want to support this cause. And even $5, whatever you can add in will help. And you can donate either at paypal.com/singing for your soul, or Venmo singing for your soul. And I'll put that info under this video. Thank you so much. Is there anything else I need to say? I think we covered it.
I think we covered a lot. Yeah, all the important things.
Yes. All right, everyone. Maryn, thank you. Everyone who's still here with us, thank you for joining. And just sending
Take a
all
breath.
the love, all the sparkles. Let's all take a big deep breath together. Why don't we do that right now? We'll do it 3 times. So inhaling and audibly. That sound is really helpful. So again, inhale. Tone that vagus nerve one more time. All
Oh,
right.
good. Thank you.
Much love, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.